Welcome to Afra Global 24, your trusted source for breaking news, deep insights, and stories shaping Africa and the world. Stay informed, stay connected, and experience the news that matters. Right here, 24/7. From Ouagadougou to Nairobi, Lagos to Addis Ababa for decades, Africa was seen as the world's silent giant, vast in resources, rich in people, yet burdened by dependence. Foreign interests shaped economies, dictated policies, and controlled the flow of trade. But quietly, over the last few years, the continent has begun to rewrite that story. Today, from the Sahel to the Horn of Africa, a profound transformation is unfolding, one that marks the beginning of Africa's modern emancipation. This is not a revolution of guns and flags. It is a revolution of ideas, of sovereignty, and of power. As the world grapples with shifting alliances and economic uncertainty, Africa is emerging as a new center of global gravity. Its leaders are rejecting external dictates, forging regional cooperation, and reasserting control over the continent's immense wealth: gold, lithium, cobalt, oil, and arable land. These are not just commodities. They are the building blocks of the 21st century. For the first time in modern history, Africa is not waiting for permission. It is taking the initiative, and the world is watching. The winds of change began to blow strongest in West Africa. In Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, military transitions redefined the political landscape. Their message was unmistakable: Africa must stand on its own terms. As Western troops withdrew, these nations looked inward, focusing on local industries, national defense, and resource management. Burkina Faso's young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, declared openly that no nation can be free while its wealth serves others. That statement resonated across borders, from Senegal to Sudan, and echoed across the continent as a call to reclaim control. In the economic arena, a parallel transformation was underway. African nations began to pivot toward intracontinental trade. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, became the largest trade agreement since the creation of the World Trade Organization, linking 1.4 billion people into a single market. This was more than economics. It was a statement of unity, a declaration that Africa could no longer afford to trade with the world on unequal terms. Factories are now being built in places once dependent solely on imports. Mining contracts are being rewritten to favor local processing. And across the continent, leaders are asking a simple but powerful question: why should Africa export raw materials and import poverty? While Africa strengthens itself internally, it is also forging new partnerships externally. Partnerships based not on aid or charity, but on mutual benefit. China, India, and Russia have deepened their engagement across energy, infrastructure, and defense. But unlike the past, Africa is now negotiating from a position of confidence. In Lusaka, Chinese-built industrial parks produce goods for African markets. In Addis Ababa, Indian investment powers pharmaceutical manufacturing. In Algiers and Johannesburg, Russia's cooperation in energy and technology grows steadily. And in every corner of this emerging network, the principle is the same: Africa must control the terms of its growth. The shift has not been without resistance. From Washington to Paris, policymakers express concern over what they call a loss of influence. But in Africa, the sentiment is clear: this is not about rejecting the West, it is about restoring balance. For more than half a century, Africa's economic systems were anchored to Western currencies and institutions. The CFA franc, used by over a dozen countries, symbolized that dependency, a colonial relic backed by the French treasury. Now, nations like Mali and Burkina Faso are moving to replace it with a sovereign currency, free from external oversight. It is a bold step, one that challenges decades of economic orthodoxy. As these transitions unfold, regional alliances are forming. The Alliance of Sahel States, created by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, is one such bloc. It aims to coordinate defense, economy, and diplomacy, a direct counterweight to traditional Western partnerships. For the first time, the Sahel nations are speaking as one voice. And that voice is resonating far beyond Africa's borders. Across the global south, in Latin America, the Middle East, and Asia, nations are taking note of Africa's reawakening. A shared understanding is emerging Sovereignty is not isolation. It is empowerment. Africa's growing independence also reflects a larger global reconfiguration. The old world order, dominated by Western economies, is giving way to a multipolar reality. Africa is no longer a periphery of global politics. It is becoming a central player in shaping it. Consider energy. The continent holds 60% of the world's unused arable land, vast hydroelectric potential, and immense deposits of green minerals essential for electric vehicles and renewable technology. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia are now building local processing plants for cobalt and lithium, the core of the world's energy transition. Instead of shipping raw ore to Europe or Asia, these nations are demanding partnerships that include technology transfer and industrialization. It is a new deal for Africa, one built on fairness and shared growth. Western corporations and institutions are beginning to feel the impact. As resource contracts are restructured and local ownership increases, profit margins shrink for foreign investors accustomed to old privileges. But for Africans, it marks a long overdue correction. The shift is visible in headlines. France's influence wanes in West Africa. The United States reassesses its policies toward the Sahel. And African delegations at the United Nations now speak with unprecedented confidence, calling for permanent representation and equal voice in global governance. In 2023, when African leaders demanded 2 permanent seats for the continent on the UN Security Council, it was not symbolic, it was strategic. Africa accounts for nearly 30% of the UN's membership, yet holds no permanent power. That imbalance, they argued, no longer reflects the realities of the modern world. And increasingly, the global community is beginning to agree. Behind these diplomatic moves lies a profound cultural awakening. Across African capitals, from Dakar to Dar es Salaam, there is a growing sense of pride in African solutions for African problems. Young innovators are creating fintech platforms that bypass Western banks. Engineers are developing solar grids tailored to local needs. And storytellers, filmmakers, and journalists are reclaiming the narrative of the continent, no longer through a lens of poverty, but through progress. In many ways, Africa's transformation is not just political or economic, it is psychological. It is the rediscovery of self-belief, the idea that the continent's future does not depend on external validation. That shift in mindset is perhaps the most revolutionary change of all. As new roads stretch across deserts and new factories rise beside rivers, Africa is laying the foundations of its own destiny. For the West, this evolution presents both challenge and opportunity. Partnership, not paternalism, is now the only sustainable path forward. Analysts call this the African century. It is a phrase that captures both ambition and inevitability. By 2050, Africa will be home to 1/4 of the world's population and a workforce larger than China or India. Its cities are among the fastest growing on Earth. Its entrepreneurs are driving digital transformation faster than any other region. The question is no longer whether Africa will rise, but how the world will adjust when it does. But independence comes with responsibility. The road ahead is not without obstacles. Corruption, political instability, and infrastructure gaps remain real challenges. Yet, across the continent, a new generation of leaders and citizens is confronting them head-on. In Ghana, local manufacturing is rebounding. In Kenya, technology hubs are exporting innovation. In South Africa, energy reforms aim to stabilize the grid and expand renewables. And in the Sahel, nations long defined by conflict are investing in agriculture and education. Each initiative, local, modest, or grand, contributes to a larger narrative of resilience and reinvention. At the core of this movement is a conviction: Africa's destiny lies in African hands. It is not an isolationist call, but a collective awakening, a realization that dependency is not destiny. Every new policy, every regional alliance, every trade agreement reflects that belief. The shockwaves of Africa's self-determination are being felt across the world. Markets adjust, alliances shift, and geopolitical equations are redrawn. For the first time in a century, global power is recalibrating, and Africa is at the center of that equation. From colonial subjugation to post-independence struggles, Africa has endured centuries of external control. But in this moment, the continent stands on the edge of something extraordinary. a rebirth defined not by resistance, but by resurgence. The story of Africa's freedom is not a single nation's triumph. It is the story of a continent rising, measured not by what it rejects, but by what it builds. And as the world watches, one truth becomes clear. Africa is no longer the world's silent giant. It is its newest powerhouse, breaking free and reshaping the world in its image. You've been watching Afro Global 24, your window into Africa and the world. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest stories shaping our continent and beyond. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a report. And join the conversation in the comments below. Until next time, this is Afro Global 24, bringing Africa closer to the globe 24 hours a day.